Hello everyone and welcome to QU Eats' first webisode of our cooking show. Welcome to my humble abode. I'm Danielle and I'm president of QU Eats. And for today's theme, we're going to be going with a gluten-free theme all around. Me and the club just finished up a 7-day gluten-free challenge. And our main goal, it has nothing to do with a fad diet. It was more so trying to understand what it's like to be gluten-free and on this campus and trying to navigate around the cafeteria. So in our experience with the 7-day challenge, we started finding things like we would compensate with a higher fat and sugar intake. And then the higher fat and sugar would compensate for things we would usually get from derivatives of gluten, wheat, barley, rye. We also found the cafeteria was not the friendliest place to navigate around, and I feel confident that we weren't going to intake anything that would irritate us. We also missed beer a lot. That was a challenge, but we survived. And the other realm of gluten-free is it tends to be a trend associated with weight loss, which I don't necessarily think to be the case anymore. So I think my best advice for those who are attempting a gluten-free diet, expecting to shed a couple of pounds, you're better off just sticking to whole grains, the right kind of whole wheats, brown rice, quinoa, and these things have a lot of fiber and are going to keep you fuller for longer, so you're going to be less apt to go for those sugary snacks or high-fat snacks. So I'll introduce you to our banana bread display. Most of the dry ingredients are already mixed, so we have a 1.5 cups of oat flour in combination with about a 1/4 cup of cinnamon sugar as a combination of the two, as well as a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and baking powder. And then in our wet ingredients, so far we have 3 ripe mashed bananas, and what we're going to go ahead and do, mix in a 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt, nothing goes to waste for college students. So that's our Greek yogurt. And then 2 eggs. For those with an active imagination, here's our little owl so far. And what we're going to do is add about an 1/8 cup of agave into our liquids. And the whole deal with the agave craze is that it has a lower glycemic index, so it causes less of a blood sugar spike versus other derivatives of sugar like white sugars, brown sugars, honey. And I'm going to do my best not to spill this over onto the counter. And once this is remotely incorporated all together, we're going to start mixing it in our dry ingredients. So since we're in college, we all know the art of compensation for our lack of supplies. So we're going to go ahead and mix half the dry ingredients with half of our wet ingredients over here. And fun fact, instead of going out and buying oat flour, which they will mark up the price of, I used certified gluten-free oats, since that's kind of our theme here. And I just put them in my mini blender. You blend them for about 5 seconds and it gives you perfect consistency oat flour. So round 1, we'll go ahead and put it into our greased bread loaf pan. And on to round 2.
Fight! Sorry, that was a Mortal Kombat joke, but no one's gonna get that.
In our last step, we're going to take 1 more cup of our certified gluten-free oats, mix them in for that nice grainy texture, and plenty of fiber. If I wasn't doing a healthy cooking show, there would be dark chocolate chips in here too, so that's everyone's prerogative if you want to add some chocolate. Okay. And now it's ready to go in the oven at 350 degrees. Unfortunately, you guys will not be around to see the finished product. It takes about 50 to 55 minutes to bake. But it will be posted up onto the blog that corresponds with the webisodes. So you will get to see it if you check back for the recipe. Okay. So now that dessert is out of the way, we're going to get on to dinner. So the reason that we pick stuffed peppers is actually a lot more thought out than it might look. I understand that it doesn't incorporate any gluten in, but with cutting gluten out of your diet, there's a lot of common deficiencies. B vitamins are a big one, as well as iron. So we're going to focus on those core nutrients, and I'll give you a little breakdown on what everything contains. So we'll start out with our ground beef. Females in college especially tend to underconsume red meat just because it's not as accessible, and with that comes iron deficiency, and iron is responsible for red blood cell production. So that's why anemia is associated with being cold in the winter and bad circulation, so this is an easy fix for that. So in addition to that, we have our brown rice and quinoa, which we're still getting our whole grains in without consuming anything that's derivative of wheat, rye, or barley. And quinoa, as we know, is a superfood. It contains all 9 essential amino acids. It's the only grain that does so. And our peppers, jam-packed with B vitamins as well as vitamin C. So things like thiamine, which is one of the B vitamins, and B vitamins are responsible for our energy production and our brain function. So that should resonate with college students going, is my brain not functioning optimally? Maybe I'm deficient in B vitamins. So we're going to help you out there. So our peppers will help you out. Black beans as well. Black beans are a good source of iron for those who are vegetarian. You want to be getting things like beans, potatoes, eggs, legumes, all of which can compensate for a lack of meat consumption. And our tomato sauce is going to provide us with a little bit of vitamin C. And when you're consuming iron, you want to be careful to intake vitamin C as well, because it helps to metabolize it. So the two go hand in hand and work really well together. So getting things like tomatoes and red meat in the same meal, or eggs with orange juice are going to be really nutritious for your body. Our first step is going to be working with our ground beef. So we're going to just saute that. This is lean beef. We have a ratio of 80-20. You could go leaner. It depends on your fat needs. So we're going to saute that along with our onions. Please be more cautious of your fingertips than I am. So we already have about a half a pound of lean beef sitting in our pan. Throw in a good amount of our chopped onions. And we'll turn that to a medium-high heat. So about 7 or 8. So right now we have our ground beef sauteing with the onions. I'll go ahead and show you how to cut the peppers. When you're choosing the peppers, optimally you want to find ones that can stand on their own. I know some of them are like misformed, but that works perfectly because when you cook it in the oven, it's not going to spill over on you. So you don't want to take much of the top off, just enough to get all of the seeds out. So as you can see, that's all the gunk. And then you can kind of fine tune it. You can take all the little stem pieces out. I'll tell my roommates I'll sweep the floor afterwards. Okay, so now we have our peppers, and we'll go ahead and check on the ground beef. So we're about 5 or 6 minutes in as we have our nice sizzling meal that's making all my roommates hungry. You want the ground beef to be brown and the onions to be a little bit translucent, and then you're going to go ahead and drain all the liquid from the ground beef. So our ground beef and our onions are all set, so what we're going to go ahead and do is mix in about a cup of the pre-cooked rice. Brown rice and quinoa mix is what we used, along with a half a cup of our organic tomato sauce. And we're going to do, you can ballpark it. These are already rinsed and pre-drained. Otherwise it comes in that liquid that's going to add a little bit of sodium to the meal. And then we're going to turn it to a lower heat, and we're going to go ahead and saute that all together. So you can put it on about a 3 or a 4 just until everything's heated through. Okay, so we're ready to compile our stuffed peppers. So we have them sitting here in a nice square pan so they'll stay upright. And we're going to go ahead and spoon some of our rice, ground beef, and black bean mixture. Fun fact for those who are looking to make friends in college, never make a meal like this for just yourself without offering some to your roommate, so always plan to make for about 2 to 4.
Somebody's hungry.
Before you would talk of B vitamins one more time. So again, we have our thiamine from our brown rice, we have niacin from the ground beef, iron from our black beans, not necessarily B vitamin, but something that we should all be making a conscious effort to get more of. And then just to cover the rest of our bases, in dairy products you can find riboflavin, which is another one of the B vitamins. So we're going to top with a bit of cheese to melt on top. And now we've covered it all. If you'd like a bit more tomato sauce over the tops of them. And then we're going to go ahead and cover with tin foil. We're going to bake them for 15 minutes covered and then complete it for another 10 minutes uncovered. And our oven is already preheated, 350 degrees, and they're ready to cook. Quick progress peek on both of our items.
So we have our banana bread and our peppers peacefully cooking.
I removed the foil about a minute ago, so now they have about another 10 minutes to go. Thanks to my roommate, I have some nice coordinated pot holders. I'm not this domestic. Okay, so the peppers are ready to come out. And voila, we have a nice, nutritious, balanced meal that even Mom would be proud and maybe even jealous of. Finish this out with my oven mitts so I look domestic. So final thoughts on gluten. For those of you who do suffer from things like celiac or gluten sensitivity, my advice to you versus going for the things that are, this looks weird, are stated gluten-free on the package, it's nice to be safe. But at the same time, things like a gluten-free cookie does not necessarily mean it's any healthier than the gluten alternative. So stick to natural foods. Don't necessarily rely on things like gluten-free bread that has a lot of added sugar as a filler. There are ways around it, thus this dinner, our stuffed peppers. It's really going to make up for any deficiencies you might be acquiring, cutting things like B vitamins, and your folate and your thiamine, and your iron intake. So, and for those of you who aren't gluten-free, you'd enjoy it anyway. We got our banana bread out of the oven, tons of fiber packed into there, so we have a really balanced meal in front of us that are going to make you a lot of friends and make up for all the mornings that you woke your roommates up too early. So here we have it. On behalf of QU Eats, thank you for tuning in to our first webisode of the semester, and we meet 9:15 SC 120 on Monday nights. So check us out on Facebook, and the corresponding blog will have all of our recipes posted up there. You can get a little bit more information about gluten-free. Thank you for tuning in. She's so cute! Oh.
She lives for me, says she lives for me, motivation. Who wants motivation? She comes